Here is items. These are the old item system. We use item bags now. I'm going to continue to update those so that they work properly. There's just a lot of stuff here with these item pickups, but they technically still work. So this item definition we could put in a cubic, and I'm just going to say pick up on collision, and we'll just make a bunch of them. Their image doesn't really update at all anymore. There we go. And here's an item definition, which will be shadow. Even though we have a new shadow craft item, that's kind of cool. And we'll also allow it to pick up on collision. There we go. I think I have 2 players. I don't really want 2 players right now. So here's my character. We'll go to this one. And he walks over these things, it picks them all up. Takes a little bit probably from the server to realize all these are picked up. Cool. We'll look at that later, why that's not working the best. So, the next thing is if I hit T, it brings up this big window, right? And I can put in, I can hit down, 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 and now I have something, which is the bomb, and I can hit up, and it's saying, hey, Shadow Well, and I can go and make another thing. So I can say, okay, that's cool. Let's do down right. Oh, that didn't create anything, and so it's now doing a white box. So it gets a little bit weird. So one of the things we can do, and then I can chuck it, right? And then it chucks it, and then somewhere in the sky it's going to throw. And it gets a little bit weird just because I need to set the invisibility and stuff, but it is working somewhere around here. Oh well, not seeing it fall, but we can work on that later. It's more on my end. So,
Question: how did you add another player?
net mode as client,
Uh,
number of players.
okay.
So, basically, how all of that works is there's a gameplay ability in Heroes. And it spawns the widget. This is an interesting ability. So we can look over here. There's some information about different details, class settings, and then it replicates. The server respects the client from canceling it, and it's got this ability ship drop package. Okay, so one of the things we see here is when it's activated, if it has authority, it's going to spawn this cubic actor. So that's what gets in the hand, right? Things spawned on the server, they replicate to the client. This object, it knows to attach itself to its owner. So that's why we set the owner to the cubic actor, and so it attaches itself. Then they both come here and they play this animation of them grabbing the object. If it's locally controlled, now what I want to do is create some UI for the person who's activated it to do some stuff. We'll see we have this widget that we can spawn. This widget here. Maybe not the best way to do this. I've learned a little bit more from what you'll see here from this quick bar slot is how to set different settings, right? But this is what we have at the moment. So I have them all listed out here, all these widgets. And if we go into the graph, it's a little bit wild, as you can see, but basically what's happening is this is capturing input. When this event's triggered, and this is on the modal layer, then when it's first created, actually, the first thing it does is it gets the owning player, gets a component by class, Lyra inventory, and then it finds the first stack of these items. It doesn't actually use all these items anymore, but you can see it gets cubic bits remaining if it has that, and this stack has a quantity. So when it comes to items in the game, an item is first, it's just an ID, and then it can have fragments. So if we look into what fragments are, let's go into inventory fragments. So if we look at this, these are fragments, and they do all sorts of different stuff. Like this fragment is for the quick bar, and what it basically has is it's a slate, a brush for how this object should look when it's on the quick bar. It has another slate brush for this ammo, and then it has a name for when it's displayed. And so if something wants to go on the quick bar, it has this little quick bar icon fragment. And then there's also another fragment called the pickup icon. And so this has a pad color, a display name, and a skeletal mesh, right? And so this is an actual object, a skeletal mesh. We can go grab that skeletal mesh. There's another one called set tag, right? And so one thing that all items have is they have this gameplay tag container. And what this is doing is it's just saying when it spawns, go ahead and give these initial stats. Here's a map of tags to stats, and go ahead and set those. And then there's all sorts of little fragments that you can attach. So an equipable, what this one does is it has an equipment definition, and in that definition it also does other stuff. So these fragments can be used in all sorts of different ways. We have our own fragment here, I think in ASMR item. So I made a new ASMR pickup icon, and what I was thinking is like, okay, well, I want a soft object pointer because I wanted to display a static mesh when we have some object, and I'll need a display name that pops up on this, and then I also gave it a pad color. That's just because the other one had that, and I'm now thinking like, okay, that's probably not needed. But we could, in the same way, have it so that this material, it has a special material and it's glowing a certain color, like if it's legendary or rare or common. So I just left it here. So what this means is when you make an item, you can have these different fragments on it. So what's a fragment? A fragment, if we come back to an item, right, you can grab, for instance, when you set that set tag, now I can go into an item and say, hey, do you have a quantity? And then I can grab that quantity on that item. And so we can expand what an item is possible or is able to do. So if we go into here, we go to items, and we have a bunch of different items. Items can be very simple, like for instance, this ID craft lightning. So this is just a really simple object, and it doesn't have many fragments. It only has one fragment, in fact, and this fragment is just item.quantity, right? And so all this item is a name, lightning, and when it spawns, it has this inventory fragment to say, hey, if you're just a definition, make sure to set the quantity to 1. So you pick up an empty object. It goes, okay, cool. And so in the same way, we could say, hey, you know what? We want something. We want to be able to see what this looks like when we pick it up, right? This item fragment, that's okay, but we need some more information about it, right? Just sending the stats is not enough. So we go, okay, that's fine. So let's add another fragment. And we could add multiple here, right? We could have, so for a initial item set, we could add another thing here. We could add a tag called, and if we search for item dot quantity, right? Maybe we add another sub tag called max stacks. Max quantity would also work. But I'm going to say stacks because they use stacks for a lot of their stuff. Max stacks. The maximum amount a player can hold of this item. And so I'm going to add this new tag. And we can go to item quantity, and now I have max snacks, and I can go ahead and say, okay, you can only hold up to 100. Boom. And now what I can do is somewhere I could say get the stat tag for item.quantity.maxstats, and I could ask, hey, for this inventory item, do you have a map that maps the item quantity max stacks to the value, right? Perfect. So we can also add other fragments. So this is just setting the stats when this object's created. In the same way, I can create a new thing, and I can look at all the different fragments, and I can say, hey, you know what? I want this to be able to be visible when it's on the ground and interacting with things. So okay, that's fine. We want a pickup icon. I got you. No problem. The lightning, maybe we give it a cool color like yellow. That makes sense. We need a nice display mesh, right? And so I'm just going to go, I think this one, the one that's the oil, is fine. So I'm seeing here I got an SM oil. Doesn't really look like lightning. We'll probably change that, right? But just for right now, SM oil. I don't think I have anything for lightning. And I'm going to call it lightning. Right? But this could also, we could add more things here. We could add a description or why it's used, right? We could add more subcategories for information that we want. And we would create a fragment, and then we could add that fragment. So now, this item, ID craft lightning, has a soft pointer to this oil. And so one of the cool things here is if I save this, why I did it as a soft pointer, is if we go back to this ID craft oil, right? I mean craft lightning, and if I look at the size map here, you'll notice that this is still very small. Nothing really in here, right? So things can reference this ID craft, and everything's fine, right? Let's look at the size map. Okay, cool. But let's say I add, and I'm going to add another one here, and I'm going to do the one they did. So the ASMR pickup icon, right? And they have an actual skeletal mesh. So we're going to add this SK dwarf. We'll call it test size, right? Compile. Now if I look at this size map, size map, that's weird. Does it not matter? Do I need to save first? Size map. There it is. I needed to save.
Wow.
So all of a sudden it's 118 megabits, right? So a lot of information here. So if you ever have one of these on the map, or anyone wants to access it, they're going to access all this information. And sometimes that's okay, right? Like if you have a gun, and you know, it needs to access something, that's okay. But one of the things is we may want an array, like all these IDs. Like, hey, I want to store all this information about this object, right? Then storing all that information is going to make that object quite large if you reference this in an object. So that's why I remade this, and I remade the last one, this as a soft pointer, right? Which means it's not always usable from us right away, but we can load it, and it doesn't take long to load something. But that means that someone could have these in their inventory, and it doesn't have to worry about this massive skeletal mesh. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this. That's why we used a soft pointer in the item, but it just makes it a little bit more complicated to use. So one of the things we can do here, so here's an item bag, and we're just going to edit the blueprint. And so this item bag, it has inventory items, right? All very cool. It has this interaction widget, which will say E, right? But let's say we want this to be in the appearance of that oil, right? We don't want it just to be this cube. So I'm going to go into the construction script. Oh, whoa, there it is. Oh, okay, there it goes. Go into the construction script. Here's this construction script. And for each, oh no, I want to get the, where are all the, what is this item bag? Inventory items. I want to go through the inventory, get inventory items for each. And what we're going to do here, for each one of the inventory items, now this doesn't make sense obviously for a bunch of different ones, but we're going to get this, and this is an ID, right? And we're going to say find get fragment. I got to remember how to do this exactly. Oh yeah, this is a bag. Okay, so we're going to break this. Can I break it?
No, never mind.
ASMR bag item structure. I'm just going to real quick go back into the code. And here's our item bag component. And here is our bag item. Property. It says edit anywhere, but I think one of the issues is this isn't blueprint read write. Blueprint read write. So I'm just going to update this real quick. So this is a blueprint type, and now I can read write to it. Go back into the code here. I'm just going to recompile real quick so we can actually read those variables. I think it was one of those weird situations where it says edit anywhere, and so I can click on this object and I can modify it, right? We can, for instance, this bag, we can mess with the inventory items, but when we have one of these bag item structs, we can't really do anything with it. So, but now that once this finishes compiling, we should be able to break it, and then I'm going to get the item definition, which was one of the variables, right? There's two variables in this bag item. Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead. Inventory items, and then for each with a break. And I like to stack things like this. It makes it really neat. You can kind of read down just like regular code. The bag items, get their inventories, iterate, and then we want to break the bag, so now we see the two different things, and now we have this item definition, and get fragment, or just someone type in fragment. Find item definition fragment, right? So what this is doing is we can now look for that certain fragment. So what we want to see is, hey, does it have a pickup icon? Right? No, we want the ASMR pickup icon. And then do a little is valid check, because hey, this could be an item that doesn't have a pickup icon, right? And then, knowing that we have this pickup icon, what we're going to go ahead and do, I'm actually going to, can I promote this to a local variable? No, I can't. This is always one of those funny things. It's actually going to call this code twice. Wait, local variable? I can't. Okay. Why can't I just promote this? We'll call this pickup fragment. Yeah. And then this is what's called an fragment. Okay. What I want to do is I want to break. Okay, this is a little bit interesting. I'm going to go back to the fragment. I'm going to have to add some more code to this, because we have this fragment, and okay, it is read only, but I don't think that, so this is not a blueprint type, so we're just gonna, well, oh wait, 1 second, I think I should still be able to get display mesh. Get display mesh. Yeah, here it is. So you can't make fragments, but you can get the variables. It's an interesting distinction there. And what I'm going to go ahead and do, delete this, is I'm going to async. Oh, okay. This is a load asset blocking type of situation, because it's in the construction script. You can't load something asynchronously. But we'll end up changing this so it's on begin play, so we can load it. Because I don't like nothing. Well, you know what? For that matter, set item set pickup mesh. And can we async? I can only do, is it because it's in a function versus in the event graph? 1 more second here. Event
Maybe.
graph, I think so. Async, yep. So, is there a way to... Make this is unsafe during science, so the warning is generated by useful for calling native functions that are unsafe during construction. Okay. I wonder if I set it to unsafe. I'll look up later to see if I can put it into a function at async load. But sometimes things that need to get called back have to be in this event graph. So if is valid, and what we're going to have to do is bring this on to begin play. We are going to asynchronously load this object, and once we have the object, we're going to take the sphere, set static mesh, can you cast it? Cast to static mesh. When it's complete, not when it's, that will just happen right away. But what we want to do is when this is complete, and then set the static mesh if it was successful. So this won't happen on construction, so this is just going to stay that image. But if we take this image object and we go to the bag, go to the item pickup, And if we give it the lightning, so now it's going to pick up a lightning. If I were to play from here, boom, you can see it's turned into this little lightning, right? So cool.
Yeah.
So cute. So fake. So, fragments allow you to add things to the object, get some more information out of them. So right now we also see it didn't change its material. We could do that as well, but it set it to that. And so we could add some more information, right? Like we'll have a special item pickup material, and we can set the pad color or the item color to this object. And now I can pick it up, and now I've picked it up and I have some oil. Yay! This doesn't get destroyed after pickup, so I'm going to update that code. But you can see how the fragments work, right? And fragments go from anything to being really complicated. Like there's an equipment fragment, so you'll notice that armor, chest, if you look at this ID chest basic, it just has one fragment called the equipment item, and you give it a WID, which is an equipment, another struct, and that it has this ability set it applies. It has actors you can spawn. It has the instance type. This tag, I don't think that's necessary anymore. I'll probably get rid of that. So, yeah, there's just some cool extra information and stuff there that's available. And what we'll start to do is we'll expand our items. So for instance, maybe you need something to be able to get some stats, right? You want to, when you go over it, you want right away, you want to be able to get information of how much damage the weapon does, how much armor it does to death, like a comparison. So what you would do is you would create a fragment, you would go to the ID, right? And you would say, okay, well, this thing now, it needs to have some more information that I have. So I need another fragment, and it will do more. And certain fragments, they have a lot of different stuff, like like a weapon. It's setting its ammo. It's doing all this extra information. I have another fragment here. Not that capsule. I just made this one. A little video earlier today, where I made a. No, it's not under craft. It's under world. I made a shadow seed. It's kind of cool. So, and we can look at what one of these does. ID shadow seed. It has this. I'll just show you what it does. So if we go here, and you'll notice that when I change this to ID shadow seed, okay, when I play it, this isn't going to visually do anything. So what I'd have to go in here is I'd have to open up this ID, and I would have to say, hey, you know what? I'd really like you to be able to visually show yourself. So could you become an ASMR pickup item? I'm going to spawn you around the map, and go ahead, and when you're around the map, I want you to be this static mesh shadow seed. And yeah, you can go ahead and be green, and we'll just call you a shadow seed. Right? So now, this object, when we play, it just turned into a cute little shadow seed, right? I can grab it. Now it's on my back. It does some other weird stuff. And now when I go to a shadow well, boop, boop, it activates this ability to chill here. It gives its shadow to the well. And now I just got the item, the shadow item. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So just got to make that ability. And so you can make items really have all sorts of interplay and do all sorts of stuff. So back to the crafting system and how that works. One of the things I did was I needed access to all this information at once, right? And And so what I ended up doing is I made a data table that is loaded in by a subsystem. And this data table, it has the combo it takes to make the object, and then it has the ingredient, each ingredient you use. So if you use shadow, here's the default, it just makes an explosion. And then if you add some shadow to it, it makes a shadow explosion. And then each one has a little tag. And so then that way I can go back with just the tag and I can find out which item. Because you can imagine that there's just somewhere it needs to get stored, like, hey, where are all these IDs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I ended up doing is I made this structure that stores all this different information. So we'll start populating this, right? So the resulting item, if it makes one, and certain things like a bubble shield, we would go, okay, the input is 1, 3, 4. 1's up, 2's bottom, 3 is left, 4 is right. Maybe it should have been the other way, 1 just in a circle, but that's how I did it, up, down, left, or right, left.
3 is right?
3 is right. 3 is right.
Okay.
So, and now, if the default thing is, in this case, a bubble shield doesn't make a bubble, but it will, in fact, make the ability, or let me just put a bubble shield. Do I have something with bubble shield? No. I don't know if I made any of these. Ability, item, that's shoes. Interesting. Let me go to item. I just don't want to recreate naming. Okay. So, this is a little strange. I wonder how I'm going to do this. So, I think I'm going to make it under ability. Throw. Okay, these are for crafting. Oh, here it is. Okay, craft bomb. Okay. So that's how I'm doing it. So craft, and then I'm going to add a subtag, and I'm going to call it a bubble shield. And alright, craft bubble shield. There we go. And now, when you put in this input, it's not going to give an item. Instead, it's going to give the ability tag bubble shield. Boop. And the resulting icon, we need an icon, right? And so what we would do is we'd go in and add another icon. This might be better as a slate. I just put it as an icon, so it's an image. But again, slate might be nicer. It might be what you want to be using.
Mm-hmm.
You can look at the widget. What's it called? You might want to look at the quick bar widgets.
Mm-hmm.
That they use slates, so it's an already encompassed collection of stuff, right? Because we may want to have this icon have other stuff. So that's ultimately how we make something, right? So what we could say is, okay, you made the bubble shield. Now, do you want to make a shadow bubble shield? Maybe this is a bubble shield and you can't see through it. It's like a smoke bomb, right? Or do you want to make a bubble shield? Maybe it's super strong, right? Or maybe it just turns into a bomb. And so we always have the option. And so what we do is we create these. We're going to create more of these tags, and then it's an input, and then it will display what it is at the end. And so I still need to create some of the logic, because what it does is it ends up just sending the gameplay tags to the item. So in the item here, oh, and there's two things. I did that, and then there's a single craft. This is just a lookup table to look for the crafting ingredients, so that it goes, hey, I know that crafting ingredient. I'll use this properly. Let's save all of this except for test range and blank planet. Any other questions?
Um, so we have recipes that players find throughout the maps, right? That's how they get the recipes to craft things,
Yeah,
but the recipes would be hard to find.
maybe. Yeah, I'm how I kind of changed it. So it used to just be a black box, right? So I made this crafting subsystem, and so the crafting subsystem, it just adds a, it had some ease of, it adds some extra ease for when we're creating stuff. So it does a few things. If we go back to this item, right? So at any point you can get the crafting subsystem right here, and then you can get recipe. Wow, and you can give it an input combo, and then it will return the hey, you made this crafting recipe, right? And then in there you can see the input combo, the ingredient they chose, and if it has possible future input matches. So this is how I'm detecting if they should continue to put stuff in, because once I detect, hey, you can no longer put in any, like, you can no longer make a proper input, I just instantly return bomb. So this will return bomb, and then the input combo is 0. uh, that's that's how I'm going about it at the moment. I may want to make multiple tiered bombs, so how many crafting inputs you put into the bomb, and then once you,
Could you, sorry, could you cancel out, like,
yeah, if you
not
hit
make a
exit,
bomb, not waste?
yeah,
Exit?
if you
What's the exit button?
exit,
Oh,
escape.
like escape? Okay, cool.
Yep. um so yeah, so that will trigger if we exit. I don't think it will call craft confirmation. It'll just deactivate the widget.
Mm, okay.
So yes, that's the good way to throw it. Otherwise, if they press the, if they try to throw it, it's gonna say, hey, you're trying to throw whatever you have currently, and it will just throw it. So if we go back to the ability, um, it's getting this crafted inputs, and then the the subsystem, which we see here, it has a few different abilities. So you can get a random pickup definition. You can get a craft result, which we were just looking at. You can get an item. So if you give it a gameplay tag, it will it'll say, "Hey, I know that tag. That is this inventory item." Right? It's also giving it as a soft pointer. I don't know if that's truly needed anymore. Actually, yeah, probably. Some of these items are quite large. So I have these soft pointers, so you'll have to load in the definition. The also here we have, you want the recipe, so that info combo, you were just seeing that function, and then also there's the has the crafting resources. So if you give it a pawn and you give it the array of crafting quantities, it'll say, hey, can you make this? And then we also have a similar function. Actually, I don't even know if this one's done. I think this is blank. Yeah, this is just returning true. That's my bad. Because consume craft resources does the same thing, and it returns true or false if it was able to actually craft it. And so if we look at this one, it's going through finding the resources, and then at the end it's consuming the resources. So you can see I'm removing the stat from that tag. And yeah, I think maybe I should do something where after I should check if the stat tag is 0, and I should remove the item. That's not a bad idea. Technically, it doesn't matter because if it gets down to 0, it will still like it'll find the item. It'll be like, hey, you don't have that, so it's not too big of an issue. But this might be a nice way to clean up. Yeah, so this function, I'm just actually going to just delete this has crafting resource because I'm not using it. So I wrote these functions to make things a little bit easier. You can also make a craft container using crafting resources and the out tag. And so we'll see these in the ability. So that way, really quickly, it can just be like, oh yeah, I know exactly what you're looking for. All right, I'm going to copy, this script of tags. And I'm going to go back to ASMR core tags. And I think it's just all right here, all of this. Yep. And Control V. Those are all the tags. Individualized. Yep. Look at that. This is the exact same line. And I don't think that's needed, but I'm not going to change it if it was already here.
Another question is, so is it supposed to be discovery based or like goal oriented crafting specifically? Like, should the players be seeing recipes that they have currently that they collected to craft something,
So
or
I've
should
I've just removed that. So now, because it's so easy, right? Like you could be in here, and if you have the items, you can just start putting things together, and you can be like looking for new items, and you
yeah,
right
okay,
away you have instant feedback on what you made with an icon.
okay,
So there's a little bit of mystery in, hey, what is that icon? What does it make? Right now, some of them will be less mysterious, like it's a helmet. Okay, that makes sense. Or, you know, so we've definitely removed some of the mystery to it. In the same way, we could populate, right? We could populate. Hey, here's the items, but at the moment, I just don't think that's the biggest deal. I think players are going to learn them. They'll just naturally start knowing the input combos, and they can ask their friends. They can be like, "Hey, what's the input combo for fast teleport or whatever they want?" And maybe what we'll do is we can list out the longer, more complicated ones. Like, do you want to make boots, or we could probably list them. But at the moment, it's not the biggest thing on my list. But yeah, I guess listing them's not a bad idea. Um, yeah, it's just we have to think about the size and constraints of everything. So
okay. But we're leaning towards more arcadey and mysterious and discovery, right?
yeah,
In
that's my
terms
thought.
of inputs. Yeah.
But
Okay.
yeah, I'm just yeah. I
Okay.
we can change it, but we'll see. We'll see. We'll just play with it.